So if what you're saying is true, and we do this, we won't die?
No. We'll cease to exist. Painlessly.
Also Riverdale, a universe we don't even know for sure exists, can be spared.
It does exist, Veronica. It's a universe of high school dances and masked serial killers, of football and milkshakes and musicals and cults, diabolical board games and murderous nuns. It's a world where billions of people will die if we don't split the universes.
All right. Let's do it. Let's make out to save the universe.
Welcome to Gimmicks, a podcast about the high-concept, experimental, structure-breaking gimmick episodes of TV. From musicals to bottle episodes to an absolutely bonkers 100th episode. I'm David Arnold.
And I'm Derek B. Gale, here to tell you about the epic highs and lows of football. And who is with us here today?
Hello, I am Chris Cummins of Sci-Fi Explosion, and I am very happy to be back to talk about one of my favorite shows.
Yes, because this time we're talking about Riverdale and its 100th episode, The Jughead Paradox.
Oh boy, oh boy. If you are not familiar with Riverdale, it is a multi-genre teen soap aired for 7 seasons on the CW from January 2017 through August 2023, based on the long-running characters and the world of Archie comics. It is, at times, a throwback to classic teen dramas, also a dark gothic neo-noir serial murder mystery, sci-fi fantasy supernatural horror show, known for changing genres and doing a lot of wild shit. We have talked about it a couple of times on Gimmicks in episodes that are, I think, very good, and I'm hoping that this episode attracts people and gets them to listen to our backlog. We have done the preceding episode to the one we're talking about today, The Witching Hour. We've also done the Carrie the Musical episode, A Night to Remember, which was one of the 2 episodes we dropped on the very first day of the original premiere of Gimmicks on January 10th, 2022, bringing us full circle for our own 100th episode of the podcast.
Just as bonkers as this one of Riverdale, I assume it will be.
No, that one's actually a very normal compared to this episode, to be honest.
I hope our 100th is as bonkers as Riverdale's 100th.
Sure. Well, yeah, in that case, yeah, slam dunk on that part. Yes. This is how we're celebrating our 100th episode. So basically, the first day that Gimmicks ever premiered, 2 episodes dropped. One was the Seinfeld episode in the Chinese restaurant. The other was that aforementioned Carrie the Musical episode of Riverdale. Riverdale was there from the first day of Gimmicks, and our guest on that Carrie the Musical Riverdale episode was Chris. So again, bringing us full circle, one of our very first guests on the very first day of the podcast is back today for our 100th episode, which makes me very happy. So thank you for being here for this momentous occasion, Chris.
It is my absolute honor, and congratulations on 100 episodes.
Thank you.
It's happened. Derek, Chris, what are your experiences with the television program Riverdale?
My experiences are, I'm a lifelong Archie comic super fan. And when I heard this show was being created, I was super, super excited. At the time the show premiered, I was writing for the website Den of Geek, and I got to basically be Den of Geek's Archie guy for 8 years and covered this show, and I loved this show from the outset. Archie comics have... They were the comics that introduced me to comic book storytelling.
Wow.
So I've been reading, I'm older than the two of you, so I've been reading them since 1982, basically, and that was my starting point for comics, really, and remain a fan to this day. And so this show, to me, was such a wonderful gift, not only that it just existed in the first place, but also that, I got to cover it professionally. And also that, it's just a celebration of the magnificence of Archie comics and how weird and wonderful they can be.
Yeah, yeah. And you've gotten to like write for Archie Comics since then, right? So
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, and which literal dream come true, you know, being able to, I was able to create a new character. I was able to do some fun stuff, and yeah, it's great.
yeah. Yeah. And it's always nice to hear someone who is a lifelong Archie Comics fan who is like, yes, Riverdale is good, because I feel
Yes,
like the
yes,
accusation that people who probably are like less familiar with the comics make of this show is sort of like, well, I thought those comics were supposed to be just like cute and wholesome and funny, and then this show is really dark, so obviously it's wrong and it's a bad adaptation. And then it's like, when you talk to people who are like really entrenched in Archie Comics history, it's sort of like, no, this actually is pretty good adaptation of Archie Comics in a way.
yeah. I'll do a quick reminder. I probably touched on this in the Carrie episode, back 99 episodes ago, but okay, so in the 70s, Archie did a lot of kind of adventure storytelling. Specifically, there's a book called Life with Archie that had things like kidnappings and adventure stories. There was a Josie and the Pussycats episode where Josie got, not episode, issue, where Josie got possessed by the devil and they had to give an exorcist to take her out. So in the 70s and early 80s, there were all these high concept kind of Archie stories being told in the comics. And you know, these were definitely kind of inspirations for what Riverdale became. And so when people are like, this is nothing like the Archie comics, I would be the one who would be out there finger raised and going, actually, because, you know, there were, like, you can draw a through line that goes directly from the Archie adventure themed stories of the 70s to what Riverdale tried to do. And that era is my favorite era of Archie storytelling, because in the same book you'll have the traditional like Archie can't decide between Betty and Jughead, Betty and
Wow.
Veronica.
Wow. That was an
Wow,
excellent
yeah.
Freudian slip.
Yes, yeah. And in you know, you'll have a direct through line from there to and another story will have like a horror themed touch to it, you know, or a science fiction themed touch. And I just love that about it. Like, you know, you get all these different kinds of storytelling in one issue, you know, and it's the best value in comics, you know. What can I say? But yeah, so, you know, to see that the showrunners kind of took inspiration from the fact that the Archie characters can be put in any situation and thrive and still maintain their essence is something that I think Riverdale recognized right off the bat.
Right.
They discovered it.
Yeah.
And you stayed with it while it was on the CW for all 7 seasons.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and you know, because again, like I got I was able to get like the first 4 episodes before, like a few months before. I think it was like 2 months before it aired, and I could not believe the show was going on the air. I felt like it was like I felt like it existed for me because it was everything I ever wanted from a TV show. You know,
Amazing.
when Riverdale started airing, the whole thing was like, you know, Twin Peaks meets Archie, which is very fair.
Oh,
you know,
sure,
and
sure.
and you know, like I can understand that the general public isn't aware of these Archie 70 Adventures comics or how versatile, you know, the characters are and everything. So, you know, to see this come to life, I was like, okay, this show's too good for this world. It's great. I love it, but it's not going to last.
Yeah.
And I love that I was wrong. I love that it became this thing
Yeah.
in pop culture, and it just got weirder and greater every, you know, well, maybe not every additional season, but it was
It ebbed
always
and flowed.
surprising.
The last couple of seasons
Yes.
are some of the best TV I think I've ever seen in my life.
6 and 7,
It's
six,
incredible.
season 6
They're like
and season
unleashed
7
in the last 2 seasons. It's so
Yes.
good. Like no restraints. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, like, especially because, like, season 1 I thought was epic all the way through. Season 2 was okay. Season 3 I really liked until, like, it didn't stick the landing for me. 4 and 5 just kind of meshed together in my head as being a lot of, like, sameness, but then it
yeah.
was creatively reinvented, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, went out on a high note. Like, season
Absolutely.
7 is one of my my favorite seasons of television ever. And like and I'm not going to get into spoiler territory, but the finale for Riverdale is like I adore it. It
Yeah.
would be in my like top 10
Oh,
favorite
yay.
finales of a show.
It's a show that can get really ridiculous in a way that, you know, I think like this point in the show that we're talking about for around episode 100, I don't think it's a very like emotionally authentic like show. It's really just like they're just doing a lot of wild shit. And what makes season 7 so good is that they still continue doing weird stuff, but it becomes a lot. It like kind of reverts to this. It's sort of earlier form of being very emotionally authentic, and like the actual series finale, like it's really easy to cry during that. Like it feels very real and very based in character. So like the fact that the show can play both cards of just being like, yeah, no, who gives a shit? We'll just do parallel universe horror stories. Who cares? And then also be like, and now we're going to tell a really personal story about how important these people were to your life. Like it's just, it can do both things. And it's kind of a miracle of this show, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It very eloquently said, Derek, because that is, you kind of nailed the essence of what I love about the kind of, at one point in the show, and this is a spoiler, but whatever. At one point in the show, they have a character who is a baby who becomes, in no time whatsoever, basically the savior of the world.
Sure.
And he's just kind of left behind as these characters go into this new kind of back in time thing that happens.
And this is never mentioned ever again.
That character's never mentioned ever again. And baby Anthony, forever in my heart.
Yeah.
But I just love the show takes these big weird swings and things like yeah, and I actually feel like with a show like Riverdale that's been off the air for like 2 years, it's kind of more fun to talk about it with spoilers because people will hear the spoilers and be like, "Wait, what the fuck happened?"
The baby Anthony thing, you left out the fact that like he is angel magic. He's used to age him up 20 years.
Yes.
He's immortal. Yeah. He fights a sorcerer, gets shot, loses the battle, and then they all go back in time after the comet comes, and he's never mentioned again after that. So like, it's a normal show.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Derek, obviously you are a fan of Riverdale. I can tell from the way that you just delivered that so easily. Were you there in the beginning, Derek? Was this also like a episode 1 thing for you?
No. So I remember hearing about Riverdale, and I had very little familiarity with Archie comics outside of like Sabrina the Teenage Witch stuff. And even then it was sort of like I knew the Melissa Joan Hart show, and the cartoons as well. I'd watch the Sabrina cartoons, and I knew that they weren't like one-to-one adaptations of the comics. I was aware of that, but that was really my only real. And Josie and the Pussycats as well. I watched the Josie and the Pussycats cartoons, and I love the 2001 movie. But even still, in both cases, they're like related to Archie, so I was familiar with the idea, but like hadn't read any of the comics, knew that they weren't totally one-to-one of the adaptations I was watching. So I would never say that I was an Archie comics fan, just like aware of it because it's very, it's very much in pop culture, hard to avoid it in one way or another. So when Riverdale was premiering, I wasn't interested in it for the Archie comics angle so much as the fact that like it just looked like the type of WB/CW teen drama that I really liked. I like that sort of I like that particular brand of teen soap. Any especially like mid 2000s WB teen soaps were always my shit. Even if I didn't watch much of it, like I didn't watch much One Tree Hill, but if an episode of One Tree Hill was on the TV, I would watch it and be invested in it and then like dip out, Yeah. I'm either like all in on those shows or like I will like any little bit that I see, but even if I don't commit to them. I just think that there is something really fun and special and endearing about like the melodramatic shows about high school with high schoolers played by 27 to 30-year-olds who are all having sex with each other. And WB as well was always very high concept with their shows. They would often have these like supernatural or sci-fi elements. I really loved like Smallville and Roswell and stuff like that, and Buffy, obviously. So like I like that aspect. So like Riverdale was very clearly like going to be in that same vein of like dark murder mystery type and also based on a comic book stuff. So like I was like, oh yeah, that's gonna be my shit. And the only reason I think I didn't watch it when it came out was just like the time it came out was 2017, one of the worst years of my life. And my ex that I was with at the time would have hated it and thought it was stupid. So like it was never gonna happen. But I remember hearing about it and was interested in it. So it was on my radar for a long time. And then Chilling Adventures of Sabrina came out not long after that. That was I think a little more accessible for people because it was on Netflix, and also a lot of people, even if they didn't care about Archie, maybe liked Sabrina from the TGIF show. So I did watch that and really, really, really liked it a lot. And that, coupled with my friend Cass, who has been on our other Riverdale episode that we did, they just started, I don't even remember exactly what got them to start watching. I think it was just a show that they started to put on Netflix out of curiosity, and were sort of like, this show rules, and like, Derek, you would love this. So I'm like, okay, fine. And so it wasn't until this was one of my like early COVID watches, was catching up with Riverdale. So it was around when season 4 was happening. I watched the first 3 seasons, and then Netflix dropped season 4 like right after that. So I was able to catch up on the first 4 seasons, and that was during a big, huge gap because of COVID lockdown, obviously, a big, huge gap between season 4 and season 5. So I was able to kind of rapidly catch up. That meant that I think was able to miss a lot of the early like internet drama and early fandom stuff, and people, being in and out of the show, because like the show does change a lot from season 1 to 2, and like a lot of people bailed during season 2 when it got really into weird serial killer territory. But like for me, I'm all in on all of it. So I think that helped me really like maintain momentum. And so by the time that season 5 comes, I'm watching it live every week and continue throughout the end of it, and like would revisit the old stuff too. So I was all in from there. And it's like, I really like Sabrina a lot, but like Riverdale like went up so high in my rankings in comparison. And I think part of the thing that really appealed to me was that it felt like a really intentional throwback to those sort of like mid-2000s WB shows, in that they're these long 22 episode seasons. It really seems like they're writing by the seat of their pants and they aren't fully planning out their big complicated story arcs. They're just sort of like, let's just get a bunch of young up and coming writers and directors together to like figure something out with this teen drama, and figure it out as we go along, and just like play in the space. And so you would end up having a lot of just like weird episodes. Sometimes things didn't work. Sometimes it feels like stuff goes nowhere, but then other times it's sort of like, oh, there's like magic happening, and you're responding to audience perceptions or things being talked about of the show. It's sort of like, oh, maybe you're not using people of color very well, and people are complaining about it. Cool. The next season, tons of people of color doing lots of shit all the time, like the way that the show would respond to things. And again, just the way that it was just like, have fun with just playing, like the fact that you can just have a season open with just like, we're just going to do 5 episodes in a parallel universe of a bunch of horror short stories. Why not? We've got a 22 episode season. Who cares? Let's do it. And a lot of people staffed on this show were like young writers who this is like their first fully staffed job. And like, again, that feels very classic to what like TV used to be, what network TV used to be, and especially what the WB used to really embrace. And it's kind of like the last vestige of that era of television that just happened to go until 2023, which feels miraculous to me.
Yeah, kind of incredible, honestly, the whole thing. And those of you who love the show seem to, capital L, love it, which is amazing.
I think one of the things that the show has going for it is its unpredictability. No season feels exactly the same.
Yeah.
And yeah, everyone involved with the show was extremely online, and there's a few times, including in this 100th episode, where they acknowledge fan things. And
here's the Jughead becoming canon.
Okay, well
there it
that
is.
One,
yeah,
even with no awareness, I was like, well, that line, I know who that line was for.
and like I always love that. As someone who loved the show, but also like covered it for work every week. Was like, it was so great to like know that I was being seen and heard. Which was a lot of fun, and I think fans of the show feel that way because this show was, and I was, I feel like Rose in Titanic. I was there in the trenches, and when the first season came on, and everyone was like, "This is like Twin Peaks. This is so." And when the tone shifted during the second season, much like during Twin Peaks second season, people got like turned off.
Yeah.
And, and then a whole new crop of fans started coming in. And that happens at least like twice throughout the show, the course of the show. And it was really interesting to see that happen in like the fan community about Riverdale as well. So by the time we reach, this 100th episode, it's like this has been like 4 shows already.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and it kind of was doing. Sorry, we'll eventually get to your experience with the show, David, shortly. But like it kind of does what Supernatural, I think, was trying to do for a long time, where it would like Supernatural to a certain point got very online and responded to online feedback, but to a point that I think really, in my opinion, hurt the show substantially.
Agreed.
And they didn't really know what to do with all the shipping stuff and like the Tumblr of it all for that show in a way that didn't really fit with what the show originally was. Changes it fundamentally, and I think kind of hurt it. Riverdale, I think, was always good about like, it was always enough at arm's length, and they always integrated the fandom stuff enough and would still be willing to do stuff that they know that the fandom would hate sometimes too.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, you guys don't like this ship? We're going to do it anyway, bitches, because we want to. Fuck you. Like, I love that kind of stuff.
Well, that before I talk about my experience, that actually is a perfect cue up for this question, because now I guess I have only seen a few episodes of Riverdale. I started season 6, episode 1 at Derek's recommendation, watched through today's conversation, and then went back to the pilot. But before I talk about that, did people hate this? Because as I was watching it, I thought, if this is a big enough swing, I could see forums being flooded by fans being like, what happened to Riverdale? We're in Rivervale. Like, was that there? Was that part of the world? Or am I maybe putting on other fandoms into this world?
I feel like by this point, people were aware that Riverdale was a show that would just do weird shit.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I think the show had teased, like, alluded to supernatural things. It had alluded to weird stuff and never fully gone there. It had always been a little bit Scooby-Doo out of it, where it's like, supernatural thing, well, now here's kind of a reasonable explanation for it. For like 5 seasons.
Okay.
And also considering like the Sabrina connection to it, that's technically a spinoff, they're sort of like, when are we just going to get fully supernatural with this shit? Like, we know that it feels like it's coming and it seems like you guys want to do it, so why don't you just go for it? So I think that when this stuff was happening, even though it completely doesn't make any sense, I think people were like, A, prepared for the show to just be weird anyway, and B, we're kind of like, thank God they're finally just fully doing this supernatural shit that we've been kind of waiting for them to do anyway. And we're also just kind of assuming like it's probably just a dream or coma dream or something anyway, so whatever, we'll just go with it until they reveal what it is. But I don't know if your memory of this differs from mine, Chris.
No, that's exactly accurate. Because around this point in the show, there was actually like the turn had gone from the what is Riverdale doing among the fan base to what the hell are they going to do next? It was
okay.
So by the time the Riverdale event happened, the people who are still watching, because again, this is 6th season here, are people who are totally there for it.
Yes. I think part of it is that my main window into Riverdale before knowing both of you and Cass and other people who love this show was that I had a friend, and I would say that his television 23 hours a day was tuned to MSNBC, and 1 hour he would switch and watch Riverdale. And that was my entire window. And I thought, okay, so this is a show that drives this Rachel Maddow loving man into a fictional narrative. That's all I really knew about it before I started listening to gimmicks and started listening to conversations about this. Talked with Derek and Cass and sort of like tried to maintain my sanity as these sentences were being said. But this is my first experience with it. I kind of have wanted to watch Riverdale for a while. There are a lot of episodes on the Gimmicks brainstorm board about Riverdale. And so I knew that time would come. I had a fucking blast with the Riverdale 5 episodes.
Thank God.
I love to hear that.
I went back to the pilot and I was like, that's kind of boring. What's going on here? I was a little disappointed that there was less weirdness, more Luke Perry. That was a plus.
Yes.
But I am excited to continue watching from the beginning, but I do kind of feel like there's an emptiness inside of me that will only be filled when weird things start ramping up much faster.
Yeah, for sure. There is like a like secret language that I feel like you have once you've like gotten into Riverdale, that like you can say things to people that like that was like, it was like a foundational part of Cass and I's like adult relationship. I feel like over the last few years of just like being able to just talk about Riverdale, and like no one else that we knew was like really watching it as intensely as we were. So like we could just like talk about it with each other and people would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? I think that's part of it, is that it's just like you watch it, it's sort of like this shit shit just keeps happening. There's things that just keep happening. And it's like, again, it's so funny seeing at this point of the show and comparing it to the first season, where it's like, it was actually, as weird as the first season is in some of its idiosyncrasies and visuals, it's still kind of a normal narrative with normal things happening,
Yeah, it's kind of Dawson's Creek for the 2010s. Like, sure. I wasn't like the introductory scene with like the murder of a classmate. That was I was there for that, and then we sort of moved on to like, oh, Veronica's in town, and I was like, yeah, that's great, she's cunt. But could we get to like some supernatural shit that I am now used to?
Sure.
Yeah, it takes a little while. It's funny because Derek and I have a mutual friend, Aaron, who's currently watching the show, and he's right in Riverdale now. I think he's on like episode 2 or 3, and he's been texting me throughout like his journey of this show, and it's been so funny to see like someone who just started like a month ago and is loving it, but is also like what their reaction to the different eras of the show are as they come on. And like he when he started Riverdale, he's like, what is all this? And I'm just thinking about like the stuff that is waiting for him like in the middle and the end of this season, and then like all of the 7th season, and just like, oh buddy, you have no idea, and that's like such a thrill, is to like know how people are still finding the show and are still just like connecting with it. So David, my wish for you is that you go back and you experience the wonder, and then you have certain episodes that you see and be like, hey Derek, we have to cover this episode, and then you all both call me, and like I'll be like, hey, here I am, let me talk about this show again. It is a show that I think like by the end of it, there's a lot of people were just really clowning on it on the internet and stuff, and are like watching it ironically and stuff like that. I do think this is a show that will be very much reclaimed over time the more people discover it or rediscover it, because I do think, especially as TV in general has moved in a direction that people have complained about, of just like short 10-hour movie type seasons with big gaps in between that just feel less chaotic. I think there's a thirst for this kind of old school, kind of long-term writing by the seat of your pants storytelling, and I think people are going to be like, wait, there was a show that like just distilled all of the history of television into one 7-season show and just did it, and like visually like looks really good, and is often very well acted too, and it's just very entertaining to watch. And I think people are going to go back and realize like there actually was a lot of value in what this show was doing, and it would often do some really smart shit sometimes. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Like this is a show that, although obviously it was a hit enough to go 7 seasons, but I still feel like it never got its due fully, and I feel like time will change that. I feel like it's like people will still continue to discover the show as the years go on, and it's gonna be one of those things. It's just like a cult favorite, a cult standard. I think even more than Sabrina, which is another excellent show, is because Sabrina is very much one thing, whereas Riverdale is everything. All of the things. And it does so in such a clever, knowing, but not too ha ha ha, look at us.
It's like they know what they're doing is as writers, but they're not putting it on screen that like they think that they're smarter than you. I think that's the thing. Right. You can't think that this show is stupid, because they know that a lot of the stuff that they're doing is pretty stupid, and they're just having fun with it.
Yeah, it's not like overly ostentatious. It's
Yeah, this is the most like prelude we have ever had, I think, for an episode before we even started talking about
I
love it, though.
I'm sorry.
It's fucking Riverdale activates. When you're a Riverdale fan, it fucking activates something in you. Like, so hard to not be unleashed.
Oh no.
I guess we should start actually getting into what we're talking about today. Let's talk very briefly about some of the creation of this show.
Okay.
I do think it helps provide some context for why it is the way that it is. It was created by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa. I think when you learn his background, I think a lot of the influences of this show do become very clear. He was a long-time Archie Comics fan. He first gained attention in 2003 when Archie Comics filed a cease and desist order on him for writing and staging a play about Archie Andrews coming out of the closet and moving to New York. And I feel like you just hear that, and it's sort of like Riverdale kind of makes sense now.
Yeah. We as a community can do better than Archie. There's a deep bench of better characters that can come out of the closet, in my opinion.
Fair. You know what? This show posits that everyone can be queer,
That
is the thing.
I am already
So-
getting the sense of that at 6 episodes.
Yep.
Yep.
Shortly after that, Aguirre Picasso started working for Marvel Comics. He wrote, many issues, for example, of like the sensational Spider-Man for a couple of years, and continued to write plays at the same time.
Nice.
So he's getting involved with comic stuff, like mainline, major comics. At the same time, he's continuing to write plays and stay in theater. And I think those things converge into getting him onto Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. Specifically rewriting the book for it. So he's responsible partially for the 2.0 version. But here's the thing. He was largely unknown when he was brought on for that. His career is pretty much unscathed by it because I think his name isn't the one that people associate with the failure of that show. And if they associate him with it at all, it's sort of like, oh, you wrote like the better version of it that improved on the shitty one that we didn't like. So like maybe you helped save it. So
Yes.
in a weird way, even though he worked on something that was kind of cursed, it maybe helped him ultimately, gave him a lot more cred. He ends up writing the book for the American Psycho musical adaptation, which again makes a lot of sense for Riverdale. They literally do American Psycho stuff in Riverdale at a certain point, so it makes sense. And then in comics, he does actually get hired by Archie Comics, writes the hugely successful Afterlife with Archie and Chilling Adventures of Sabrina comics, which are huge hits, very popular part of it, very influential on this show for sure. And then he starts getting tapped for movies in 2013. He writes the Carrie remake. He works in a bunch of television. He writes for HBO's Big Love. He writes and produces on Glee, which we talked about in our Glee episode last Christmas. And that certainly influenced this show, I think. And then he created and show ran the 2022 iteration of Pretty Little Liars. Obviously, in the midst of all that, he creates Riverdale as well as its Netflix spinoff Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, its lesser-known CW spinoff Katie Keene that only ran for one season. He attempted to make
But it's still worth your time.
Oh, really?
Still worth your
it's
time.
worth my
Check
time.
it out.
Worth
Check it
my
out.
time.
I still haven't watched it yet, but I just want to watch it because Josie's in it, honestly.
It's really good. It's really, really great. It's like Emily in Paris, but
Good?
strange.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, like Emily in Paris, the paint isn't a great base here, Chris.
Well, yeah, but it's like, imagine Emily in Paris, but great.
Perfect.
And with like identity theft and weird storylines.
Ooh, okay. I love
like
that.
that.
Yeah.
Also did attempt to create another Riverdale spinoff, Jake Chang, which would have been about a teen prodigy detective mystery solver, which feels maybe a little bit redundant with what we have in Riverdale, but CW passed on that pilot regardless. I think that was kind of the big part of the big sweep when they were just kind of canceling everything, including all their DC stuff and Riverdale. So makes sense of that, and just ultimately never got off the ground, unfortunately. Riverdale as a show did start as a pitch for an Archie feature film in 2013 from Roberto, as well as director Jason Moore. It would have just been Archie's gang and a kind of a teen comedy feature film in the John Hughes tradition, I think is what the suggestion was. This is just a weird sidebar. When they were pitching it, the then VP of Warner Brothers recommended a more high concept direction that would have involved time travel or interdimensional portals, at one point suggesting that Louis C.K. portray an older Archie. Apparently the direct quote from that VP was, quote, "Portals are huge."
Okay. He's not wrong. Portals were huge when this show was getting lit. This was the age of portals. Portals have died off, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The Louis C.K. This is a dodged
timing-
bullet, right?
The timing, I think, would have worked out if this was between 2013 and 2017. I think this would have been obviously pre Me Too.
Okay,
So
okay,
I think the timing
Yeah.
maybe would have made sense. Like, it's just,
Eek.
glad
Whoops.
that didn't happen.
Yeah. I just also I don't claim to be an Archie like scholar or anything, but I don't see Louis C.K. as an elder Archie. I just don't. It doesn't give elder Archie to me.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Either way, thankfully, it was revisioned as this wonderful TV series. It was bounced around from Fox to CW and then picked up as a mid-season show. Actually underperformed during the first season. It was only averaging like a million viewers per episode. But I think it was like a combination of like seeing merchandising opportunities and like especially that Netflix bump that the first season got when it landed on Netflix.
I think that saved the show, actually.
Yeah.
Was the Netflix bump after the first season.
Because wasn't this during the time that CW had that Netflix deal where like its shows would land on Netflix like right right after the season
like
wrapped.
immediately.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
this
like,
was
it
like
gave-
the golden hour for CW.
So like it would give shows an opportunity to get audiences in the summer, which would then help convince the network to renew the show just based on Netflix more than the live airings, because then they renew the show and becomes a mainstay, ratings pick up in season 2, and it ends up having a really strong social media presence too that they see. And I think that also really helps keep the show going for 7 seasons. Netflix and social media. Like, I know that those are two things that often aren't great for society, but in this case, they'd be all worth it if it makes Riverdale exist.
In 2017, it's such a different, like, I know that it was like a few years ago. It was 9 years ago. But it was such a different world then. Now, executives are like, well, we can't give Netflix the money. I'm going to launch my own streaming service, Peacock, that David will never I will never download Peacock. I draw the line. That's where it is.
Tuesday, November 16th.
Something bad is happening in Riverdale.
A new season of Riverdale returns.
What if we're cursed?
With a 5-episode event.
Riveting, isn't it?
Riverdale, 5-episode event. Tuesday, November 16th. Only on the CW.
I've been having these strange hallucinations. Oh, hey, Jughead.
There are 2 parallel universes.
Riverdale comes first, and then there's Riverdale. It's a paradox.
Riverdale, 5-episode event. Concludes next Tuesday at 9/8 Central. Only on the CW.
Well, this time we are talking about season 6, episode 5, The Jughead Paradox. The original air date on this one was December 14th, 2021. Wild for me to think about this Riverdale thing lasting through December, because it was giving October vibes the whole time.
The episode was written, of course, by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa, the creator of the show we just talked about, and it was directed by Gabriel Correia. He is a director who was born and raised in Brazil, moved to Vancouver in 2001, where he started training as assistant director on TV shows, notably Supernatural. He started in season 2 in 2006, would continue being promoted, to third, second, and then first assistant director through season 12. He's on there for 173 episodes. So Supernatural.
Get it, Gabe.
Very much his sort of training ground. During that time, he gets to be assistant director on films like The X-Files, I Want to Believe. He does both parts of Twilight Breaking Dawn and the 2014 Godzilla. So anything that's in Vancouver, he's like, great, I'm doing it. Riverdale ends up being the first time that he's actually allowed to take the reins after he leaves Supernatural. And I think that that's a thing that I have heard lightly talked about from TV industry writers, is that like Riverdale and a lot of the sort of CW, especially their DC shows, were great places for like up and coming writers and directors to like get their first shot at working in TV in a way that TV used to be, because there would be 22 episode seasons. Then you could be like, here, freelancer, take the script or whatever, or here, new person, be staff for this one season and see how you can do. Which is a thing that's harder, maybe even impossible now in television, because seasons are so short and they're so self-contained. This is one of those cases where like this guy gets the opportunity because of the CW to get his first actual directing job. He ends up directing 19 episodes from season 3 to 6 of Riverdale. And a lot of them are very major episodes. He does a couple of finale episodes. He does premiere episodes. Nice. He obviously does the 100th episode. He's a producer during season 4, co-executive producer during season 6. So like this really, Riverdale helps him get his career really going. And since then he's now directing for CBS. He's directed on CBS's Fire Country show. So, it's another thing that we lose when we lose shows like Riverdale, is the ability to just like help up and comers get into the industry,
Absolutely. There's a big cast on this one, but like, not to belabor it, a lot of them, Riverdale is like the thing that has either been their breakout role or is like the last credit to their name. There's a couple folks that like Riverdale's it for them on television. They came from the theater, they did Riverdale, they're back to the theater. So I'm going to blaze through these folks, but stop me if you all really want to talk about someone. So KJ Apa plays Archie Andrews. His first role was in the soap opera Shortland Street for 47 episodes, but Archie is what he is most known for. Lily Reinhart plays Betty Cooper. She had a few guest spots, but Betty is her breakout role. Since Riverdale, she has been in the titular Hal and Harper as the Harper character, which was written for her by co-star Cooper Raiff.
Yes. I like Lily Reinhart a lot. I do think that she's kind of maybe the shining star of this show that really deserves to have a bigger career than so far she has, which is kind of a bummer.
I was a little surprised that I didn't see some more credits for her because I really like Betty. I mean, I really liked her performance as Betty.
Yeah, she's very, very good.
We have Camila Mendez as Veronica Lodge. Riverdale is her breakout. Most recently, she is Tila in the Masters of the Universe movie, which is like...
Yeah, that's pretty big. That's a pretty big deal, getting like a big
I think so. And
franchise
Tila.
IP role, honestly, in that roles too. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have Cole Sprouse as Jughead Jones. So Cole was a child actor, and he was in a lot of things as a child actor. He was the youngest child on Grace Under Fire, Patrick, for 112 episodes as an infant and young child actor.
Wow. Afterwards,
and your mileage may vary on how much you liked this character, but he had an 8-episode stretch as Ben Geller, Ross Geller's son on Friends.
So weird. So weird.
And he looks like Cole Sprouse as a boy. So, well, yeah. That's how genetics work, David. Then he is main cast as Cody on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody for 87 episodes, the follow-up series, The Sweet Life on Deck, 71 episodes, and the various Zack and Cody films.
Oh, of course. And that's probably where most people, especially like millennials and Gen Z, definitely know him from those shows.
That was my guess. Is that people were like, oh, I know this guy from Disney.
Yeah, I also remember him from a Pokemon commercial where he and his brother are both in it, and I always remember because they're playing on the DS, and one of them says, I play Pokemon Heart Gold. I play Pokemon Soul Silver.
I play Pokemon Heart Gold version. I play Pokemon Soul Silver version. I collect Pokemon, trade them, and engage in heated battle. Mostly he loses, like now. And when I'm not playing, I have my Pokewalker on me. I use mine to find items I can use in the game. I can also catch Pokemon and connect with friends or my brother.
And I was like, guys, I'm sure you have heard the words Pokemon before. Why would you say, I play Pokemon? Like, what are you doing, guys?
By the time we're into DS titles, yes, everyone knows how to say Pokemon.
Yes, that's very funny to me. I play Pokemon Heart Gold.
Pokemon.
Anyway.
So he's sort of like the one with the most resume credits of the main four coming into Riverdale. But since Riverdale, he's been in some films. He was on The Long Haul, I Wish You All the Best, Lisa Frankenstein. Probably will be continuing to act.
Just a fun fact, I think he obviously has a twin brother. That's why the whole Sweet Life of Zack and Cody was a thing. There's 2 Jugheads in the same space in this episode. His brother nowhere to be seen ever on this show.
Amazing.
It's so funny.
I was thinking that while watching this episode again, like, they couldn't, like, did Dylan just want nothing to do with it?
Probably so. He was just like, fuck no, I'm not interested.
I didn't even look up to see if he was, like, still acting or whatever. I know, I of course know Cole Sprouse is, like, all over the place. He's still a, like, git, I think. And after Reinhardt, I think Sprouse might be my favorite actor that I got to see in my stretch. We then have Madeline Pesh as Cheryl Blossom. Breakout role is, of course, Riverdale. Since she has been on a film series called horror film... compilation. There's 3 of these. Strangers.
Not The Strangers.
No.
The well-known movie, but just something called Just Strangers.
Just Strangers. Heard of it. But like Strangers was released part 1 with a sequel coming the next year, part 2, and another one coming the year after. So it was
like
a
planned
Fear
Street type thing.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I like that. I like when they do that. I just never heard of this at all.
And she is the lead, capital L lead. She is like the final girl. So maybe I'll check those out one day.
Okay. Dang.
We don't get a lot of him, but Casey Coate plays Kevin Keller. For the actor, this is like it for him. He did Riverdale. He's on like 2 guest appearances on other shows. And then he was like, fuck this, Broadway calls. And good for her. Good for her. The character Kevin, I need confirmation from my Archie heads over here. This is the first openly gay character in the Archie universe?
That is correct.
Wow. Well done, Riverdale. Make it happen.
Oh, no. The comics character of Kevin Keller.
Oh, he'd already done it.
This version of him, he'd already happened.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Riverdale didn't.
Yeah.
Then good for you, Archie
Comics.
Comics.
Oh, yeah. And just to be clear, the comics version of Kevin Keller is not the Riverdale version of Kevin Keller. His whole character thing is likes to do musicals, likes to have anonymous sex in the woods.
Also gets very easily attracted to like cult-like things. Like, let's join a cult. Let's get involved in tickle porn. Let's sign my soul away to the devil. Like, that's his whole deal.
Well,
Kevin, there's so much great queer representation in this show, and this show does do a good job of making maybe previously non-queer comics characters, just making them queer just for the hell of it. Kevin Keller maybe is some of the worst queer representation I maybe have ever seen in television, but it's like in a show full of amazing queer people, and it
Okay.
becomes kind of a joke at a certain point
Yes.
of just how badly written this character honestly is. And I think Casey Cott just kind of revels in just being like a stereotype at a certain point. It's very weird and not great, but it's kind of hilarious.
And Casey
honestly.
Cott is also a straight actor
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
But the Kevin Keller comic character, like that launch won like a GLAAD award.
Oh, I love that.
So yeah, the TV version of Kevin Keller is not winning any awards.
Yeah.
And
it's funny because like Roberto is gay, and there's and plenty of queer people work on this show. I know many writers of the show were queer, so I don't really know why it was like this, unless it was like, let's make the worst white gay man we've ever made just to like say fuck you to Glee or something. Maybe that was the intention. I don't know. It manifests in a not great gay character.
It's weird. It's very weird.
But again, tons of other queer characters, both men and women in this show that are queer, that are very incredibly well done. It's very weird that this character is so fucked up, but whatever.
I'm very excited to watch his journey because I think could be easily seduced by a cult. Cults, call me. Next up, we've got Vanessa Morgan as Tony Topaz. The first role for Morgan was in a Canadian's kids show called The Latest Buzz, and then a Canadian show, My Babysitter's a Vampire.
That rolls.
I don't know what to tell you. Great. Then she's on Riverdale, and now she's the lead cast on a procedural called Wild Cards, where, a detective has to team up with a con woman to solve murders or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's the con woman.
That sounds cool. Good for her. I like her a lot.
Yeah. I don't have a lot to say, but Drew Ray Tanner plays Fangs. He was in a lot of guest spots, Arrow, Supernatural, Supergirl, iZombie, Vancouver, before joining the Riverdale cast.
Yeah, sure. It is weird. This episode takes place during the period where Tony and Fangs are a couple and have a baby together. But it's very funny because like everyone loves their like sort of end games of like Fangs and Kevin and Tony and Cheryl. And it was like, oh yeah, there was a significant period of time. It was like raising a baby. Like I do appreciate the bisexual representation of like, if they're bisexual, they can get together and that's fine. We're not going to avoid that aspect of it. Like, they've got the whole spectrum on this show.
Well, and isn't this the baby that you both told me saves the world later?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, that's what happens when bisexuals have a baby together.
Exactly. Right.
That's actually just science.
Yeah, that's just
true.
right on the page.
That's true.
We have Erin Westbrook as Tabitha. A lot of guest and recurring roles. First recurring role was Mr. Box Office, but was on Glee, Supernatural, Bones, NCIS, and Jane the Virgin before booking Riverdale, which she was in for 39 episodes.
I adore her. This character was created for the TV show.
Oh, fun.
There was no comics counterpart, and
Yeah.
The Tabitha Tate character is so wonderful and wild.
They do
and
the
just
weirdest shit with her.
So
and she's
weird.
always really
and
good.
She just sells it.
At no matter what. No one else has ever been able to deliver the lines, "Tears the Virgin Mary cried at the crucifixion." No actor is able to deliver those lines with such conviction. There's a point later in the season when she's like talking about discovering like that like a sorcerer is building a ghost train, and she like is sitting in the diner. She's just sort of like, "It's all starting to make sense," and I'm like, "What?" And then Cheryl says, "Is it?" And I'm like, this is like maybe the best scene ever in all of Riverdale, actually.
The diner cannot be broken down for long. If it is, we will dissipate into the ether. If that happens, there will be no witnesses and the final battle cannot take place. And there will be no opportunity to defeat the eldritch evil.
Which is why Percival's been so hellbent on destroying Pops. This is all starting to make sense.
Is it?
And it's always because Tabitha Tate is like saying the most insane shit with such conviction, and it's just like, sure, I believe it because Erin Westbrook is saying it, I guess.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
I loved her really focused episode. The Devil episode I thought was just like she sang in that one. Okay, the last two I want to talk about are Charles Melton as Reggie Mantle. He started as a model and then had guest spots on Glee and American Horror Story. Somehow he survived Ryan Murphy, to then come on to Riverdale, and this is his big break. He took over for Ross Butler starting on season 2, but we're going to talk about Ross in just a second. Most recently, he was in season 2 of Beef.
I would like to just add this about Charles Melton.
Yeah.
He is kind of poised for he's going to have a long career because he was nominated for May December Golden Globe nomination.
Yes, he was very
and
good.
He's
in
been
May
getting
December.
a lot of heat for his various roles that he's done subsequently to Riverdale. I think I expected Lily Reinhart to be the breakout star
Same.
after Riverdale. It looks like Melton's going to be.
Yeah, which is really
he's phenomenal as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I especially in the 7th season of Riverdale.
Oh my god.
Melton gets to shine
cool.
so much.
He's like a comedic gem at a certain point, and I think he's a character that I remember for the first few seasons not really liking, or not disliking, but just finding him really boring. And I think that as it goes along, they really figure out how to play to Melton's strengths. I think if I go back and rewatch the show, I'll probably like him more because I'll appreciate Charles Melton's performance more. But like, I think that they start leaning to his strengths and realizing like this guy is really funny. Like he's so uniquely funny, but can also play like emotion too, so you can have like a big dumb idiot that you feel really bad for, and like he's really good at playing both of those things. So yeah, I'm very glad, and I think by this point in the show, like they really know how to use him, and he shines every time he's around.
Yes. Yeah, and like again in the 7th season, he gets some incredible stuff to do. Some of my favorite stuff in the series overall involves Charles Melton's performance as Reggie. So shout out to him.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give a special shout out because I do adore his performance.
Yeah.
On the show.
And he almost wasn't on the show because he wasn't on here for the first season, as this episode delves into, which I fucking love so much. One of my favorite things this episode does.
Yeah, we're not done talking Reggie because Ross Butler is in this episode.
Yeah.
The original Reggie Mantle.
So good.
Yeah, I forget. I think Ross Butler was also doing one of our Reggies was also doing 13 Reasons Why.
It was
Ross Butler. That's why he left.
It was
That's
Ross
why he
Butler,
left because
okay.
he was filming that, and he wasn't a regular in the first season,
Yeah.
so they couldn't have him locked into contract. So yeah, he left for 13 Reasons Why, and so they had to just recast him with Charles Melton for season 2.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, first of all, there's obviously no bad blood because he's coming back for this, and 13 Reasons Why, I would have a hard time saying no to that. He is a pretty important cast member in that series.
Yeah, and a very popular show. So, like, sure, it makes sense.
Yeah, a very different show.
Yeah.
And I think that if you're like, I'm an actor, I want to be taken seriously, or whatever's going through your mind when you're making decisions, 13 Reasons Why is probably going to be the thing that like gives you a step up the ladder. Spoiler alert, it will be Melton who like climbs that ladder faster.
So funny. So funny. I love that.
But oh well.
Well, let's talk about the gimmick of this episode. We are doing a 100th episode for our 100th episode.
Yeah. So reaching 100 episodes has historically been a cause of celebration. This goes all the way back to radio serials. It probably goes back to theatrical performances too. There just wasn't a lot written about that. But boy, there are a lot of magazines that have been archived and scanned and uploaded about radio serials, and I got to read a ton of them for this.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I had a blast on this. Just
Nice.
trying to figure out what was the first time we really did something big for 100. And really a lot of that celebration was internal. Like we made it and we got a cake, which is like, okay, any reason to have a cake at work is fun.
Wait, is there cake?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
There's
cake right
There was
here.
not a cake FedEx to me today, and I'm a little pissed about that.
We really let you down, Chris. Sorry.
Like, David, you have an excuse you're in another country, but Derek, cake? You owe me cake.
Wow.
Okay. All right.
Okay. You own cake. Yeah. I will say that I tried to hunt down what first television series made it to 100, and that honor probably goes to the series Cabaret, which was sort of a variety show that aired on what would become the BBC. In 1939, they had their 100th episode, and that was written up in the Radio Times magazine, right next to an article that says, "Do we need a club for people who love television? Because it's starting to overtake our magazine."
Okay.
The history speaks for itself. Sorry, radio, we won.
Yeah.
But I think the other reason that 100 is important goes into the nature of syndication. So in the 1950s, when television production had shifted from live broadcast, because everything was just live, to film and then later tape, productions realized they had an opportunity to give this a second life by airing it again. And a market sort of erupted for the packaging of television programs that could re-air, and this was known as syndication. It was a bumpy start, but once they found equilibrium, what it was is we were looking for packages where an affiliate could air that program 5 times a week, every weekday, for 20 weeks without repeating any episodes. Sorry to do math on the podcast, but 20 times 5 equals 100. And so the old let's get a cake because we hit 100, it turned into let's get a cake because now we're rich. And at the beginning, because of the way contracts were written, syndication was like money on money on money. Everyone, not, construction people and everyone who like helps shows get made, but actors, directors, producers, everyone was making a ton of bank. And so really quickly contracts got refined. Things started to be taken over because executives at television networks were like, oh, we could make even more money off of syndication. So in the 1960s and 1970s, contracts started being written up. Unions got involved with this as well for a lot of the construction, lighting, gaffers, everything like that would award certain allowances to crew and cast once syndication goals were reached. So all of a sudden, there was a financial investment of pretty much everyone making the show to get to 100. And so now everyone was very excited because a lot of those contracts were sort of delayed compensation until syndication. So you used to get paid $100. I'm just going to use even numbers. You used to get paid $100. Now we're going to pay you $80, but if you get to syndication, you're going to make another $50. Right. And everyone, it kind of ended up working because syndication, when cable got big, was so critical and important because you couldn't have dead air on cable. You just had to put something in there.
Yeah. It's interesting because then it sort of changes the game where it's like, it's not just that you have to be successful when you're airing like the literal time that you're airing. It's sort of like, well, you have to balance, like maybe you're not super successful airing live, but maybe we'll still justify continuing to renew you if we can then syndicate it, which then like helps some shows that maybe would have been more on the bubble or canceled stay alive for longer, which is kind of cool.
And in some cases gave them a second life because they would do something stupid that ended up being like their new thing. And then that would give them like a longer tenure on life. There's so much weird stuff about syndication, but the 100 of it all ended up being really, really important. And I think for the purposes of our conversation, one of the audiences who loves television are people who make television. And so you start to get this sense of like the 100 is something worthy of being celebrated and worthy of being explored. And so as we enter the 80s and 90s, you start to see promotions for the 100th episode. Now, sometimes they are, this week on the 100th episode, nothing different is happening.
Right.
And so it's like very basic, just straight up, we're trying to market this. But then pretty quickly, everyone starts to do something that just is a nod to 100. ER's 100th episode, for example, has a frame story in which a patient who was born at the hospital 100 years ago has come in to like celebrate her life.
Sure.
Arthur, the PBS show, celebrated 100 years of the town Arthur lived in being on for their 100th episode. Even Blue's Clues did a 100th episode celebration that brought Steve back because he had left and gone to college. And that is a big memory for Blue's Clues lovers.
That's still kind of funny though, because it's like shows that are aimed for little kids who wouldn't like recognize the importance of 100 episodes and they're still doing it. It feels very like internal, kind of self-congratulatory, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Blue Bloods, their 100th episode was all about a $100,000 robbery. What the fuck, Blue Bloods? Do something better. Of course, what all this sort of means is that 100 went from being this sort of, wow, we did it, we did 100, to, wow, we did 100, that was a really important financial goal for their corporate overlords, to 100 is sort of a spectacle. So how can we lean into the spectacle? And I feel like that's where we pick up the story with Riverdale's 100th episode.
Yeah, because I think Riverdale's take on a 100th episode, the reason that I think we decided to pick this one, out of all the ones we could have picked, there's other ones, like 30 Rock was one that was, I think, very high on our list of potential ones to do. I think Riverdale ended up working for one because it kind of gets us full circle. So like, you know, one of the first episodes we ever released on the first day we started the podcast. It's also the first show that we're ever covering for a third time officially.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of a momentous thing. Every other show we've never done more than twice. We've never said they couldn't do it more than twice. We just haven't yet. So Riverdale is the first time we've covered it a third time. Possibly more in the future.
Yeah.
So, you know, it made sense. But also, I think this is such a cool take on a 100th episode because in true Riverdale fashion, it just goes buck wild. Finds so many ways to do all sorts of celebratory things. It does spectacle. It does retrospective. It's very like pat on the backy about its history, but also is like not pretentious about it. Cause like it just does the shit whether it makes sense or not. It finds a way to make an episode where it's sort of like, what if like reality is literally crumbling in on itself to justify making all of these weird references and returns of characters and like meta references and stuff. So like there's tons and tons of references to past storylines in big and small ways. There's tons of flashbacks to past episodes. There's long-standing characters who are returning after being away for a long time or after they've died or at least referenced. There's a big wedding in the episode. A big wedding between characters that a lot of people wanted to see have a wedding. Big kisses that people have wanted to see happen. Big fandom shipping acknowledgements. We've referenced that. There's a couple of firsts. Like this is technically, you know, the Riverdale stuff was its own thing. People assumed it was a dream. It's kind of a dream. This is the first time where it's like, no, the show is like fully sci-fi in a way that is going to affect the show going forward. These events of Riverdale and the reality shit and parallel dimension stuff very much comes into play in episodes after this and heavily affects the story arc of the season in the main Riverdale universe. So this is like the show calling its shot and being like, we are a sci-fi fantasy show now fully unambiguously. Also, this is the first time Jason Blossom ever speaks in the entire show, which is a big deal for the fans at the time. Like stuff like that happens in this episode. And then, of course, the many, many meta references, not just to the show, but also to Archie comics, the comics that the show is based on as well. So, you know, all of that stuff are things that you might expect to see in a 100th episode. This one just, again, throws all of it in at once in just the most bizarre ways.
Yeah. It's truly something to see. And I'm glad not for the full circle is great. I love having Chris back. I love us talking Riverdale, but I do also think that for the air, you know, not to be like dour, but like, I don't know that 100th episodes are going to be a thing that we're going to see a ton of in the future of the production of television, just because modern television is changing so much. We'll never, God help me, we better not get 100th episode of Ted Lasso. I should be dead in the ground by that time that happens. But this gave the creators an opportunity to really do spectacle, and the spectacle is 5 episodes long.
Kinda, yeah. David mentioned it. We don't have to belabor it very much because if you want to hear a big breakdown of Riverdale and what it was, the last Riverdale episode that I did with Cass on the episode The Witching Hours, which is actually the 99th episode, the episode that comes right before this, which is also a very good episode and a big like gimmicky high concept episode. I love that episode so much. We talk a lot about Riverdale, but essentially, like, I think the backstory to how we get to a point where you can do a 100th episode that's this fucking weird is that, like, the show had changed substantially. I think partially because of COVID lockdown. Season 4 is cut short. It doesn't end on a real finale. It just kind of stops because things are halted because of COVID. And I think during that period, it's sort of a recognition that, like, the show does kind of have to change. We are sort of starting to run on fumes by this point. So it comes back in season 5 after a very long break, wraps up the season 4 storylines, and then does this really big time jump and sort of resets all the characters. It takes place, I think, like 7 years after the end of season 4, technically, or the end of high school. So that's the first big significant change of the show, that it's like, we're not just a show about high school anymore. But then I think even during that season, there's sort of a recognition that it's like, we're edging on supernatural stuff, but we're not quite there. I think Sabrina has already been canceled by the time season 5 is airing. So it's like, you know, I think they start to recognize that, like, maybe there is a place for more genre bending supernatural stuff in our show, which I think is how you get to season 6, where it's just right off the bat from the first episode, they're like, hey, we're in a place called Rivervale. It's not Riverdale. And look, here's a bunch of weird horror shit that's happening, and characters are dying. There's ghosts. There's the devil. There's some weird time shit. There's immortality. Archie gets his heart ripped out and they're just dying and people are acting weird. Nothing makes any sense and it's very confusing. And they're just light allusions to like a bomb that exploded at the end of season 5. That's the only thing you can hinge on as being a connection to the show. And like, it is just meant to just throw you in the deep end and have no fucking idea what's going on. But again, throw you into the deep end of like, yeah, we're doing supernatural shit now, bitches. Deal with it. Whatever.
Deal with it.
You know?
Deal with it.
And I think it also in a weird way helps you ease into it because it's like, well, maybe it'll just turn out that they're all dreams and none of this is real and it's back to normal. But then the show kind of turns out on its head with this episode where it's sort of like, some of it was dreams, but also the supernatural shit is real too. So who cares? And now they're going to have superpowers after this. It's fine. Roberto, I think it's said that as they were planning their Riverdale arc, this is an interview with Variety that he and some other people working on the show had done around the time this episode comes out. I think they weren't even thinking of the 100th episode coming. They were just doing their Riverdale arc. They were just going to have a bunch of cool horror short stories and eventually get back into the main Riverdale plotline. This was just their way to have fun. And the 5th episode in that arc was just going to be another dark horror episode. And as they were making the show, they're like, oh shit. That's going to be episode 100, huh?
The wild thing about that, Derek, is you talked about COVID, the mid-season pickup. The only way you get season 6, episode 5 to be 100 is some weird math that has like a writer's strike or like something had to happen to make the numbers add up to get to 100 here. It's like when I think about the gift of Buffy being the 100th episode, I go, that's fucking bonkers, but you only had it because you had a mid-season pickup.
The fact that season 5 ended on the 100th episode and they could do that big event for it is pretty serendipitous. And I think it's a similar thing here. And it's like, wait, shit, the time we kind of wanted to end our arc anyway happens to be our 100th episode. So that changes their idea. Instead of it being another horror episode, it gives them the idea to be a little more meta, to make it more of a celebration of the show, and also like a love letter to the comics as well. And so they're like, cool. Apparently they shifted whatever their original idea for that 5th Riverdale story was to later in the season and just set it in Riverdale. I'm actually not sure which story they're talking about, but the end of the season, like, there's a point when there's like a sorcerer building a ghost train, I think I referenced. So like, that's probably something related to that. So
of course there is.
Yeah.
That feels normal. That feels normal around here.
So I think, you know, and like, I will say, like, I've already spoiled some stuff for it, but like a big part of season 6 is like the weird supernatural shit that we see in Rivervale sort of seeps into Riverdale. They become aware that there was this pocket universe and now they have to deal with magic and supernatural shit that they didn't previously have to deal with. So it's like kind of justifies the existence of all of this stuff. You know, so it all ends up actually working out really well for them, that they ended up having to write a parallel universe story and shift their horror stuff into the main timeline rather than segmenting it. And I think that ultimately kind of improves the show, only kind of happening incidentally because they happen to realize that this would be the 100th episode.
That's incredible. I think it's what makes this bonkers fun.
Yeah.
I had a great time with everything Riverdale. But this is the like peak. And it's funny how much of this episode I can tell is for people who have been fans from the very beginning, but didn't take me out, didn't make me feel bad. In fact, at one point in time, we were doing some flashbacks and I was like, I wouldn't mind a little bit more of that on my plate. If I'm being honest, I loved those little flashbacks.
Yeah, I agree. It's really cool to see.
Like, I think part of why this episode works is it being a celebration of the insanity that is Riverdale.
Yes.
And it's done in a way that isn't too self-congratulatory, but it should have its flowers as well, you know? And I think this does it excellently by bringing back, like, you know, the first Reggie, by bringing back Dilton, by bringing back Ethel, you know, it just having these characters come back for nice little moments. Something as fan pleasing as having like Jason Blossom finally speaking after everything was just like,
it was stupid, but like it's hilarious and satisfying.
It was great. Even bringing back like fan favorite characters like Dr. Curdle Jr., who like we find out is harassing Betty for not being invited to her wedding, which is so on brand for that character. It's
incredible.
Magnificent. It's great.
Yeah,
I just love those little moments that are put throughout this, but also like the fact is, this episode has a lot of work it has to do.
Yes,
because it has to wrap up the Riverdale saga and establish what's going to be Riverdale for the rest of the run.
Right,
and it manages to do that brilliantly, and it does it in a way that I don't think feels forced at all. So it's like this episode is really ambitious. It has a lot on its plate that it needs to do. It has a lot of these kind of like flashy moments with returning actors. And it gets it all done, and you feel very satisfied. And on top of that, you have the one scene which just pays tribute to Archie Comics with like the vision of heaven being Pop's Chocolate Shop, where you can just read Archie books all day. And look, man, that resonates with me. So like, it's very, very, it's a very cool episode.
Well, I love all the character designs, but I've got to say that when we're in heaven, everyone doing Archie Comics drag was impeccable to me, because I'm familiar with the character models from the comics. I'm less familiar with Riverdale.
It's not the first time the show has pulled off that little feat, but it is the most effective, I think, in my opinion.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good to know.
The following isn't an imaginary story. It happened. It starts with a corpse on a lonely country road. While in the town of Riverdale, Archie Andrews has somehow just come back from the dead.
Yeah, so we start with this opening scene where Jughead is narrating everyone waking up from their nightmares, which is essentially the last 4 episodes.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that they do, because I again, right off the bat, I think it's acknowledging that a lot of people were figuring the Riverdale stuff would be a dream, and I think that it's a funny, like, kind of double subversion thing, where it's sort of like, because you're probably watching and be like, wait, what the fuck? That was all a dream? But then it's like, wait, but they're still in Riverdale? How does that make sense? And I will say, like, it never is super clear, like, what the heck was up with those things, other than that later when the show, I think you can always just chalk all of this stuff up to like weird reality distortions and stuff like that, because when the show revisits Riverdale later, some of that stuff in those dreams do become canonical, or like references being canonical. So like, I think all the weird stuff that feels inconsistent in this episode, they really have the perfect excuse of being like, but reality is like imploding in on itself. There's distortions everywhere. So if something doesn't make sense or feels weird, it's because reality is shifting constantly and you don't really know what's stable or not.
Yeah. When Jughead wakes up, he seems disoriented, but gets ready to go teach at Riverdale High School. Everything seems unfamiliar, including an encounter with Ben Button, who he remembers dying when he sacrificed himself to the Gargoyle King.
You're Ben Button?
Of course I am. Who else would I be?
Ben, you died. You jumped out of a window when you sacrificed yourself to the Gargoyle King.
Oh, you're thinking of that dude from Stonewall Prep.
Mr. Shipping, yeah. No. You did it first.
Maybe you hallucinated it.
Yeah, maybe I'm just hallucinating all this.
FYI, daytime hallucinations are a symptom of paranoid schizophrenia. But listen, have an awesome day.
One of my favorite lines in this episode is, you jumped out of a window when you sacrificed yourself to the Gargoyle King. And then Ben's like, no, that was the other guy who jumped out of the window at Stonewall Prep. And it's like, oh yeah, season 3 and season 4 both had cases where someone jumped out of a window and killed themselves because of a cult, basically.
Amazing. Because I was like, did this happen? And then I thought, oh, yeah, so this happened. The Ben Button thing happened. And then they filmed a second defenestration just for like funsies. But no, you're telling me that both of these happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, but anytime you see a reference in this episode, it did happen or is referencing something. And they find a way to get like a reference to a storyline in every single season in this, which is really miraculous.
The pilot could have more like offhand references to the Gargoyle King is all I'm saying.
Sure.
Because I loved this even though I had no idea what we were talking about.
Season 3. You have to wait till season 3 when they have the evil D&D game.
Come on.
Yeah. I really love the Don't You Forget About Me sequence as Jughead is returning to school. Because that's the thing, is that he's like, He's like, why am I going to school? I don't remember where I was supposed to be. He like woke up in Archie's garage too, which is where he is in the end of season 5 of Riverdale, but hasn't been in Riverdale. So like already there's some weird reality bleeding into each other things. And then this gives him the opportunity that I really fucking love is he's walking through the halls of Riverdale High / Rivervale High and then seeing images of the characters from the first 2 seasons of the show. Like when Kevin, Betty, and Veronica are walking by, I think they're wearing their outfits that they wore in the pilot when they were together. Veronica definitely is. And you see Archie and Mrs. Grundy, which is from the first episode. And then Tony and Reggie, you see them looking like they did in season 2. So already you're getting, and then of course Jughead in his old hat. So already you're getting references to like how far these characters have come from the first couple of seasons of the show in this really like kind of surreal montage, because Jughead is like seeing them and being like, wait, what am I seeing right now? Am I flashing back? Is this a PTSD thing? Is this reality? Is this time shifting? What's going on?
Well, what I love about that sequence too is it's a direct homage to Donnie Darko.
Yeah.
And so then Ben Button just calls him Donnie Darko, or someone calls him Donnie Darko.
Reggie refers to him as Donnie Darko.
It's
later
Reggie.
on.
Okay, Reggie. Yeah. But it's so funny to me that like, you know, they do that direct tipping of the hat to that Donnie Darko sequence where Donnie arrives at school and everything's in slow motion and Tears for Fears are playing. It's very fun.
Yeah, and I think it does get you into like the sort of retrospective vibe this episode has of like looking back on the show and remembering, you know, what things used to be and stuff like that.
And if I could be really pedantic, it's also a nice throwback by using Don't You Forget About Me to the time they had Anthony Michael Hall as the previous principal of Riverdale High during the whole Gargoyle King saga. So
that's right.
I love that.
Right.
So it is, again, it's just another little layer of the show kind of homaging itself in both extreme and subtle ways.
That's so true. Yeah.
Then we're in the teacher's lounge because everyone in Riverdale who was a high school student is now a high school teacher, is how I am interpreting this.
They did do a lot of work to justify how that would make sense in season 5. I give them a lot of credit.
Great. Okay.
They made a whole storyline to justify getting all of these characters back. This wasn't a thing that happened naturally. They did have to like force it to work. So like, actually, it's a thing that Riverdale does that kind of makes sense ultimately in a weird way.
It's great.
You know what? It made sense to me because this episode's bonkers, so I left sense
like
at
very
the door.
this whole beginning is very dreamlike anyway, so you could just be like, sure, whatever. Yeah.
Well, for me, who didn't have that context, I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, whatever, here they are. But this is where someone gets a call. Betty gets a call, and it's them being like, we found Jughead's corpse. And she's like, no, Jughead's right here. And then that leads to Jughead going to the morgue to be like, oh, look, it's me, dead.
Yeah. And then you start getting the idea that reality is breaking because when he sees his own corpse, then like the paradox of the anomaly causes all the shit to start breaking in the all glass to start breaking in the office and everything, which is what I was like. I remember watching this the first time. I was being like, oh, this shit's gonna be good. Like, this is gonna be fucking good. This is gonna be some like Sliders shit happening here. I'm excited.
Yeah, I love the creepy doctor guy being like, it's a paradox.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
I suppose.
I like when he goes to see like where the other Jughead died, and like he sees like the Rivervale sign, and then on the back of Rivervale it says the original Riverdale sign on it. It's just really fucking cool. It's like a cool, like in the midst of all of this, it's also just a cool, creepy parallel universe story that they're telling too.
The Rivervale sign was a source of like beautiful production for me over these 5 episodes. I really liked the care put into making something thematically important for that and changing it every episode. I thought that was just really neat production design.
Yeah. This is how we get the comic aspect of the story, which is also a really cool, clever thing that they do. Because basically this other Jughead that our Rivervale Jughead finds has a comic with him that's like a comic about him and his friends. It's like a Riverdale comic. And he's like, wait, shit, I have a whole box of these at my apartment that he just like never realized that he had. And starts going through them and realizes he just has just the comic adaptations of the television show Riverdale, basically.
It's very Spaceballs. We found the script to the movie, but in a like supernatural good, it's taken seriously way.
I have a very big nitpick about that aspect of it, and it's just I hate the way the comics look. in the show. Like, I wish they used, and I understand the expense for not wanting that, you know, like go out and have usual Archie artists do the, you know, the in-universe, the TV comics. But it just bothers me that the comics they're looking at look nothing like Archie comics. I think it would have been a lot more interesting visually had they had it look better. Just the aesthetic of that bothered me.
I think probably their thought process, I do agree with you, Chris. I think their thought process is probably like, they need these to be instantly recognizable. When you just look at an issue, you recognize what episode it is. And it's easier when they look like the actors. But it would have been really funny to see recreations of the weirdest moments of this show with the traditional Archie comic style. It would have been just so funny to see how that would have been represented.
Exactly, and especially because in the Sweet Hereafter sequence, they do have the fake comics mingled alongside of the real issues of various Archie titles. So that is a very, very nerdy, like, actually, you know, kind of, I will be comic book asshole guy there for a second. But yeah, that is the most minor of nitpicking about an otherwise excellent episode.
They fooled me because they put the other Archie comics in with them at the malt shop, and I was like, well, maybe Archie's just changed and I didn't know. This is where he explains to Tabitha that he has 95 issues of Riverdale and 5 of Rivervale, and then he takes the comics to everyone and is like, look, it's you, look, it's you.
So good.
I feel like I'm living in a movie about parallel universes. I need your help to figure this out.
Okay.
I've been having these strange hallucinations. In these comics, they're about us. Our lives. The first 95 are called Riverdale, and they're set in a town called Riverdale, and then there's this explosion, and suddenly it's Rivervale.
Okay, so you think Riverdale is a parallel universe to Rivervale?
No, I think Rivervale is a parallel universe to Riverdale. It's like the comics. Riverdale comes first, and then there's Rivervale, which is a lot like Riverdale, except it's darker, nastier. It's like a warped reflection of Riverdale, and it just keeps getting more twisted.
So we live in the parallel universe?
Yeah. I know it's counterintuitive.
It is a really cool concept, and again, like a thing that, like, even divorced of the 100th episode stuff, it's a cool story to have a cool cosmic horror story, to have a character realizing that they are in a parallel universe to a prime universe, that they're not, that like, oh, my literal universe isn't the main one. I'm the weird offshoot one. Like, that is such a scary concept to have to reckon with. It's so cool to see a character having to recognize that and trying to like desperately tell all of his friends, like, you're a parallel universe duplicate of another person who's more important than you. We're the darker, nastier, warped version of the good version of our world.
I do like when he's reading the comics and he gets to like where he is, and then he's reading himself reading the
infinite
comic.
Page,
and
it's really fucking cool.
Yes.
The design of the infinite page and just how they shoot it with a camera, it's really good. I will say the pilot, which I know that I will grow to love because it will be resetting my standard of the show. But even that, like, just beautiful cinematography on this show from start to finish. Everything I was looking at was some of the most gorgeous television I have watched in recent history.
This show always, that's another thing that I think feels very like old school WB, of like these shows that like would still have really, really good production values. And even if their budgets are not as high as the other major networks, they like get really talented people who try to make really beautiful looking shows. This show is lit better and has more color than any Netflix show you'll ever watch. Yeah. Like, if you complain about how flat shit looks, or like if you didn't like the look of Stranger Things in last season or whatever, like, honestly, Riverdale is where you want to go. This show always looks good, all 7 seasons.
Yeah, it looks so good. But what we're finding as Jughead is bringing these comics to everyone is there's some discrepancies between the comics and the characters' experiences. For example, Cheryl reveals that her twin brother, Jason, is still alive.
Yeah, which, you know, I mean, a big deal. I like Jughead being like, but Cheryl, your brother was shot and killed, and you talked to his corpse for months.
No, my favorite was, it defines your entire character. I was like, that's an incredible
I mean,
line.
pretty much. And I like that, you know, Jason Steins gets a pay bump because he finally gets to speak as Jason Blossom. It's great. Yeah.
I love knowing that everyone's so excited about this, but when you were both getting excited about it, I was like, yeah, I guess he speaks. It wasn't like performance of the year.
No, but it's the fact that they so frequently will show either his corpse or hit flashbacks with him or videos with him in it throughout the first 5 seasons of the show and reference him all the time. And in no flashback ever has he ever said a word. Ever. Okay. And so it's very
funny. You never see him say anything, and it gets to be hilarious because the character is basically like who Cheryl's persona is based around at first. So
he's like fridged in the pilot. Like that's her thing. That's her motivating incident.
I also like that by this point in the show, Mark Consuelos was busy. So they're just like, Hiram's just Hiram's just been dead the entire course of the show, which a character you have not even seen, David. But in the first, from seasons 2 to 5, that guy is the big bad of the show to the point that it's annoying and he overstays his welcome. By the time he leaves in season 5, it's sort of thank God they're finally writing him out. And so that's for incredible. This to I think it's also kind of a funny sort of joke that it's just sort of y'all didn't want to see him anymore. I know everyone was tired of Mark Consuelos here, so we're just gonna say that he's been dead in this universe for 10 years. Who cares?
Yeah.
And just kind of a funnier aspect to that whole thing is the reason they're gonna have him as the big bad on Katie Keene season 2. It's he shows up at the end of Katie Keene.
Terrible.
Season 1, the last episode.
It's so weird. I liked Hiram Lodge at first, and I think Mark Consuelos was very game for all the wild shit they do with him. Why they
went on for too long.
Why they kept bringing that motherfucker back as the major villain and didn't just finish the story and write him off? Well, I will never understand. There's so many people that would have been a better villain, and that's again why season 6 is so good, because they're cool. If you want to know what an upgrade from Hiram Lodge, evil businessman, is an evil fucking sorcerer from another dimension. Great.
Great. Yep. Perfect.
Yep.
Love it.
Sure. Why not? It's amazing. So David, you don't have any of that baggage. You know.
No. What was for me was the Jonas Brothers joke. That worked for me because I didn't know who this person was. So I was great.
I also they very early reference Reggie looking at the comics and being why do I look different in the early comics?
Yes.
That's that's a funny, cute throwaway joke that I'm sure will not come into play at all later.
Until Derek, knock, knock, knock. There's a knock on the door at Veronica and Reggie's. And who's at the door? It's other Reggie.
So you're saying he's me?
No, bro. You're me. There's no you, right?
There is, though. I mean, based on Jughead's earlier visit, there are 2 parallel universes, and apparently 2 Reggies.
But I came first. I'm Reggie Prime, baby.
Yeah, but you've been in 3 issues. I've been in dozens.
Guys, it doesn't matter who came first or who's been in more issues. You're both here now. And whatever else, we obviously can't have the 2 of you running around town freaking everybody the hell out. So, you're both staying here, incommunicado, until further notice.
The coolest fucking thing this show is, I was dying, I remember when I first watched this. I had no fucking idea. I don't know if they promoted that at all. I think that was a secret. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I love too is that it is just for the TV nerds and the big fans, because literally it has been, he was in 3 episodes or something of the first season or whatever. If you weren't paying deep attention, you would have forgot, you might not have ever even noticed that they recast the guy. And the fact that they go to a commercial break, opening the door, they don't say, Reggie, they just open the door and you see Ross Butler's face and they're sort of look, if you know who it is, you're going to be hysterically laughing. And if you don't, you're going to be lost. Who gives a fuck? It's our 100th episode,
Who
bitch.
gives a fuck?
Whatever.
Let's go.
They have the interchange where Charles Melton's Reggie says, you've been in 3 issues. I've been in dozens. It's just, it's superb.
It's so good.
Superb.
I've never seen another show do this before either. It's so fucking funny.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
The closest that I can think of that has ever done this is Roseanne made some jokes.
That's what I was going to say.
With Sarah Chalk and what's her name? Lacey, I forget what her last name is.
Gowerson?
Yeah, the 2 Beckys.
Yes.
They made
Goranson.
Yeah, they made jokes with them, but it was their sort of post credits tag. They did the thing where they interacted, and I think they lightly referenced it in the revival kind kind of, where they like looked alike or whatever. But
Yeah.
the fact that they make a plot point in this of the recasting
this
and
is-
the two actors who have played the same character, like I've never seen that fucking done before.
This is 211. I mean,
Yeah.
this is big.
The one thing that I could not believe that they didn't do is just knowing how much Reggie loves Reggie. I am shocked that they did not sleep with each other.
I am shocked by
and I
that,
did
too.
think
Missed
I
opportunity.
did think that was coming. No pun intended. Like I thought for sure, like she like I thought when Veronica came in, she was going to find them in bed together.
Yeah.
Like is what I thought that, because that would have been totally on brand for the show to do.
Yeah.
I thought that too, Chris, if for no other reason than one of the other things I know about this show is Derek posting a screen cap of Veronica saying, "It's not queer baiting if it's saving the world." And I was like, are we going to get it here? And no, I have to wait for it later.
Yeah, the show, when it does queer bait, it also loves to acknowledge it's queer baiting, which is a running theme.
One of my favorite lines ever is from the pilot episode when you have your big kiss between Betty and Veronica, like during their cheerleading audition. It's like, oh, your hot, steamy, like network TV lesbian kiss that they're gonna promote, and then Cheryl just like rolls her eyes, and it's like, please, faux lesbian kissing hasn't been taboo since 1994. It's like that's the show making their statement of like, if we're gonna fucking do this, we're gonna do it, guys. We're gonna go hard and make these characters gay as fuck, actually.
And boy, do they.
Boy, do they.
Yeah.
The next sort of plot beat is that Jughead is going to get more information about parallel worlds. He goes to the library, whatever. But the book was checked out by Dilton. Oh no, I can't ask Dilton about it because he died. Except he didn't die. Dilton and Ethel are teachers. Yes. And I knew pretty instantly upon just camera work alone that I was like, these are returning people that I probably would have cared about if I had watched the show.
Yeah, both have been gone from the show since, I don't know, maybe like season 3 or something. Like Dilton died, I think, in season 3. Ethel wasn't dead in Riverdale, but I don't think she'd been on the show.
She went away. She went away.
Okay, she went away.
After the murderous nun group, she went away.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. The vibe was totally like, you should be excited to see Ethel. And
I was.
Yeah, me too. She's great. She's a great character. And very underused in the middle section of the show, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, but just, I mean, Shannon Purser as Ethel is, because
delightful.
When she did Barb on Stranger Things, she didn't, she became a breakout character, but, the character herself didn't get to do anything. Ethel actually got to show off, Shannon Purser's acting chops, and she's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I really, really love whenever Ethel would appear, and it was just great. So yeah, that was a big thrill. And Dilton was a character who, this version of Dilton, this physics version of Dilton, where he kind of knows all the secrets, is ripped directly from this comic called Life with Archie, the Married Life, in which there were two parallel universes going at once, one where Archie married Betty, one where Archie married Veronica. And Dilton was the only one who knew there were two different universes happening at once. And so he was kind of doing all this sinister sci-fi stuff. And so this little homage in that episode was also them paying homage to Archie Comics history. And whenever that happens, that gives me an extra jolt of love for the show.
Oh, I had no idea.
Love that.
Rules. Because, I think this works even without that context. And it's just you got two other characters.
It works great. Yeah.
And it's just look, reality's already folding in on itself anyway. And they're sort of just we're just a parallel universe to Riverdale. It's fine. Don't worry about it, Jughead. Jughead's okay, sure. But it feels like there's weird dream-like reality breaking shit happening around me. So I don't know.
That was just another, kind of, for the hardcore Archie people out there, for me, it was great to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also get, because this is all predicated on Archie and Betty's wedding that is randomly happening in this reality now. I do like that one Reggie goes to the bachelorette party as just the stripper, which is very funny. And then the other Reggie goes to Archie's bachelor party, and we get a nice flashback to Luke Perry as Fred Andrews, which I do think is a nice thing to include in this, because obviously, if you don't know, Luke Perry died while the show was going on. He died between season 3 and 4. So there's never really able to be a good farewell to that character. They just had to kind of deal with it after he died unexpectedly. And so for the 100th episode, it's a nice, like, emotional beat. They kind of turn it on its head later on in a weird way. But for this moment, it's very nice to just be like,
I kind of like what they did with it, though.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I also, just quick note, I love that Kevin is at the bachelorette party. I do love that. Like, that was so on brand.
I didn't even clock that. That's fun.
Yeah.
That was so on brand.
Yeah, he should have definitely been, based on your description of Kevin, should have been a little bit more handsy with the strippers, I guess.
Yep, he is the gay best friend after all.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. He's one of the first, like, speaking roles in the pilot.
Yeah.
I think the first thing he says is, Archie got hot.
Pretty much.
Yeah, Archie got hot.
And then I think Cheryl makes fun of him for being like, the gay best friend is like not a thing that is done anymore, dude. Come on. So like the show is aware of it, but you know.
This is when Cheryl, so the next day, everyone's sort of recovering from hangovers, and this is where Cheryl interrupts everyone with a ransom note sent by the Black Hood that Jason has been kidnapped, but Jughead knows just where he is. He, the sheriff, and Archie go to save him. And the Black Hood is revealed to be Clifford Blossom.
This hasn't been spoiled for you, David, because that's not who the Black Hood is. They're basically
I guess
they're like
that.
basically merging. They're basically merging plot lines from season 1 and season 2, which I think is like a fun thing to do. Again, if you have Jughead recognizing like there's things from Riverdale that are happening, but they're tweaked and just like wrong and like not really analogous to like what we were reading in the comics and stuff and what we've seen. So it's just like they're finding these storylines that are starting to cross over and like merge with each other and stuff like that.
And I will say this, I'm not going to spoil this for you, David, or anyone else there listening, but Clifford Blossom being the Black Hood is way more satisfying than who the actual Black Hood is revealed to be in Riverdale.
I disagree with that. I like the Black Hood shit.
Okay.
Mostly related to who
I love the Black Hood shit, but I felt like I did not like
serial killer genes, Chris. That's one of my favorite things the show has ever done. So, and that does create this. That does do the serial killer genes. And
I know.
You don't get the serial killer genes without who the Black Hood is.
I know.
And based on how wacky this show is, we could be talking about genetics or denim at this point in time. And I would
the sisterhood of the traveling serial killer pants. Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, that could have been one of the cults that Kevin joined. We don't know. I'm not saying yet, David.
Sounds good to me. I would do it. I would join that cult.
Kevin never met a cult that he could not fully embrace on this show.
Yep.
Always making the best worst decisions. Anyway.
Yeah. But then a thing that did not happen in Riverdale is that at the rehearsal dinner, Tony shows up and is like, oh no, Cheryl is dead now. And that's when Jughead is like, okay, so like, not only is Riverdale's reality trying to reassert itself on us, but in like weird ways and emerge ways. Now, if we thwart Riverdale trying to reassert itself on us, it's going to result in like people who weren't supposed to die now dying for some reason.
Wild.
Yeah, so there's like another serial killer out here and no one knows who it is because the people that it could have been like either are dead, don't exist, or have already been unmasked. So who the fuck is this? Is the big bad of Rivervale that wasn't a big bad in Riverdale?
Yeah, it's wild because it leads Jughead to be like, it's Dilton. And so we go to Dilton, and then Dilton is like, yes, mwahaha, I am an evil scientist. But in the middle of it, just dies because Ethel poisoned him. I was like, don't stop this train. Don't stop this train.
She poisoned him with like the blue shit that people drank during season 3 to serve the Gargoyle King and then die. Like that's why he throws up all like the blue. Like it's great. It's another fucking reference.
Yeah,
it's great.
It was wonderful.
I loved all of it. This was the point in time in which I was like, did people hate this? Because I love
no, this fucking rules.
No, everyone, everyone I knew at least was well on board for this bullshit.
So we had,
at this point,
anyone who was a quote normie, we'd already gotten rid of.
Yeah, like
great.
The people still watching at this point are just all in for.
Okay, great.
You know, like I kind of equate it to like when Lost finally went full sci-fi. Like everyone knew it was heading there. Same thing with Riverdale. Like you know, you get the feeling that like Like with Lost, I was like, all right, it's eventually going to get full on sci-fi, and then it did, and I was like, hell yeah, I'm here for it. And with Riverdale, I was like, it's eventually going to get either full on like sci-fi or full on horror, and the fact that it did both was just like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We get a quick glimpse that the two Reggie thing does not end with the Reggies sleeping together or having a threesome with Veronica. They just get so mad at each other that they kill each other. They just shoot each other in the head.
They just have a duel because Hamilton was hot that year. Like that's
oh my God.
That's exactly what it is.
Oh my God, that's so true. Yeah.
Yes.
But like that's the end of that. I do love that it's something they bring back Ross Butler just to like so the two Reggies can kill each other. That's it. Fucking hilarious.
It's great. It's great.
But then we get to explaining quote unquote the rules of how all of this works. I fucking love it. So Ethel is a physics genius in Rivervale, it seems. Good for her. I love it. I love having Shannon Purser explain how things work.
That's the moment of time the pocket universe, this universe, was created. If we could recreate the circumstances of its birth, then theoretically the same energy that conjoined them could also separate them. And we just need to figure out what that moment was and where.
I think I know. Archie's bedroom when that bomb exploded?
No, I think it would have to be a more significant event than just an explosion.
That might not sound like a lot, but it was a confluence of good and evil. Archie and Betty's love, Hiram's hate. There was creation, I was in the garage writing, and destruction, the explosion. There was science, Archie had this chunk of palladium on his desk, and magic. Cheryl's curse on the town.
That might definitely do it.
Okay, so by your logic, we just have to accurately recreate the events in Archie's bedroom. As closely as we can.
And the universes should separate, yes. The prime universe will stabilize, and our universe will cease to exist.
Everyone in Rivervale will die?
Jughead, Rivervale wasn't ever meant to exist. You, me, all of us, our town, we're just aberrations. One big, messy anomaly that will simply stop being.
And if we do nothing, both universes will collapse? Billions will die? So we just need to detonate a bomb under Archie's bed.
The way that they explain what Rivervale is that it was a pocket universe that was created sort of leeching off of Riverdale, just sort of because of a weird confluence of events that shouldn't have happened. And so now these sort of universes really should not be existing in conjunction with each other, or sort of both expanding as universes do, but expanding into each other, which is why they're sort of bleeding into each other. And there's these weird, like big, messy aberrations that are happening, reality shit that doesn't make sense. So like, again, if you have a complaint about this episode not making sense and why it's sort of surreal and dreamlike, it's because reality is just imploding in on itself. Like reality is literally crumbling, and eventually both universes will just like implode in on themselves and it cease to exist, and billions of people in both universes will die. So this is like prime comic book shit. They explain that the event that caused this pocket universe was the end of season 5, where there was an explosion. The cliffhanger of season 5 was just an explosion happening at Archie's house, and it was like a confluence of love, which was Archie and Betty making out, being in love, hate, Hiram planting a bomb because he hated Archie and Betty, creation, Jughead was in the basement under them writing, destruction, the bomb blowing things up, science, the palladium on Archie's desk just sitting there, a mineral, a rock sitting there, and then magic, which was Cheryl happened to have just put a curse on the town in that season finale. So it's basically every element, which to me is like a meta reference, I think, to how this show plays in every genre imaginable at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It's pretty incredible. I loved them doing it. They were almost talking a little too fast, which was the exact perfect pace to be going through this. It doesn't have to make sense. It should almost, and that's what I'm saying. It should almost be hard for me to keep up. And they did, that was excellent direction, excellent performance on that.
Yeah. I also like the next scene too, because like they're trying to figure like, okay, we've got to, in order to undo, we can't save both universes as far as we know, but we can at least save the Prime Universe Riverdale by recreating the events that created our pocket universe. If we recreate them, theoretically, it'll just cause us to cease to exist. And then Riverdale will be saved. So at least we save one universe, and they're willing to sacrifice themselves to do that since they never should have existed in the first place. So, and Jughead's like, well, Archie and Betty are literally getting married, so we're not going to blow them up. I'm willing to literally sit on the bomb that causes this. And then he's like, remembers like, you know what? One thing the shippers loved was when me and Veronica very briefly dated in high school. So then he goes to Veronica sort of like, hey, do you want to like make out to save the world? Basically.
I loved it. I loved the sequence because as he's like talking about Riverdale, we get these glimpses. This is where I was like, I could have done with a little more of these, even though I've never seen these. And for all I knew, they could be all made up. But
it's all real.
I now know from both of you that they are all real.
Yeah, no, it's a good monologue. Because, like, I think this is how you know that the people who are making this show know what the show is. Jughead describes Riverdale as a universe of high school dances and masked serial killers, of footballs and milkshakes and musicals and cults and diabolical board games and murderous nuns. And, like, that's the perfect description because it's sort of like you write that and that sounds like the stupidest shit you've ever read. But it's like, yes, we know that's why we love this show, is because it's a show that encompasses all of those things somehow.
If I'm honest, if that's what the tagline was on the Netflix like splash page, I would have probably watched this a lot sooner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm so glad you transcribed that because
it's
that
monologue.
is just it's fantastic. It's such a celebration of the ridiculousness that is Riverdale.
Yeah. So Jughead is in Archie's home, waiting for Veronica to come so that they can make out and then blow up and save the world. But Veronica does not arrive. Instead, it is Archie who comes in and tells Jughead that he killed her. Archie is the one trying to keep the universes joined so that he can see his dad again.
You're Rivervale's big bad? I'm not a villain, Jug. No one stays dead here. Cheryl and Ronnie, they'll be back. All the people we've lost. Everyone comes back to life in this universe. Everyone comes back. Is this about your dad? Don't you get it? He's coming home. He has to. He would never miss my wedding, especially not to Betty. He loved Betty.
Archie, how do you know all this? The rules of this world. How did you know to kill the other Jughead before I even showed you the comics?
Bro, I know all the secrets of this universe. I was at ground zero for the birth of Riverdale. The moment of creation and destruction. The threshold of revelation. I saw everything. The other Jughead. The dead coming back to life. The distortions. It's not a copy or a mistake like you think it is. It's another chance for me to be with my dad.
I love that. I mean, I think Derek and I are about to disagree here, but I loved it.
What I do like about this a lot is that I think it's very smart to position, like, if Riverdale is sort of this weird distorted mirror image of Riverdale, Archie is positioned as the main character of the Archie universe. So the fun mirror distortion of that is he is the big bad of this Archie universe. I like that. I really like that. It's sort of like, yeah, sure. And so it's fun to see KJ Apa playing just a maniacal villain in this. It's really funny. And I love that he gets to like fight Jughead and shit. I do think the motivation of him wanting to see his dad again makes sense in character because Archie is like a person that like feels simply too much. Like that has always been a part of his character. The only downside I think I have to it is that like, I do think by this point in the show, they have so heavily linked Fred Andrews, the character, and their respect for him with Luke Perry, the real life person. And so it does feel a little bit icky to me to be like, and now Archie's willing to blow up the universe to see Luke Perry again. Like it feels a little bit weird to me, you know?
Here's my problem with that. I didn't love the tribute episode they did where they brought back, where they had, because David, they did a tribute episode to Luke Perry where he was helping this woman played by Shannon Doherty on the side of the road. Her car broke down or whatever, and the character of Fred Andrews was helping her, and I think he got hit by a car.
Yeah, that's how they explained how he died.
So that's how Fred died in universe, and they brought Shannon Doherty on, and to me that felt like cheap and gimmicky. To
I think that's
like
fair.
to like exploit like Luke Perry. So in a lot of ways, this tribute felt more real to me than like that, because
Like
not
a
only it was
forgiveness
like,
for that.
hey, we're gonna deal with Luke Perry's death in sweeps. You know,
It's a little,
it felt
because that was
kinda
like the season premiere, wasn't
felt
it?
kind of it felt gross to me.
Yeah.
Like when they did that,
think
like
that's
I think it was cool because obviously Shannon Doherty had a lot of love for Luke Perry, and now that she's gone too, there's an extra level to it. But at the time, I just going like, oh, it didn't sit well with me, and I always felt this kind of sat a little better with me while also being a bit exploitive. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's one of those things where I think you can't have both things.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think it's just funny to see Archie being evil and that being his motivation.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I do think that this is, he's funny in this sort of heel turn kind of way.
Sure.
I didn't mind the motivation. I just was like, I mean, also, not that I was watching my clock, but there weren't a lot of minutes left. So I also was aware that it is still television. Right. So we had to go.
And I think it's interesting too, because this is where they, like, there's some stuff that they just like don't totally explain in this episode, but I think you can kind of figure it out if you're thinking about it, I guess. But like, so Archie explains that like the reason he's been doing all of this is because he is aware of the universe, because he was like created as an offshoot at the flashpoint of the creation of this universe. So he was almost like born into this universe with an awareness that they are in a pocket universe and sort of knew the rules of it. And so I think that then, because one thing that this episode sort of skirts around is like the narrator Jughead thing, which will come back up in a second and we can sort of talk about how they handle that. But the narrator Jughead thing at the beginning is sort of like, how is there like more than one Jughead? Why is there a dead narrator Jughead in this? And I think what it's supposed to be is that like in the prime Riverdale universe, we have seen Jughead as a character also be a narrator in the show. Since the pilot episode, he'll often narrate episodes. And so Riverdale, if it's sort of like this sort of like weirder mirror of it, the extension of that is that not only is there a Jughead that is a narrator, it's also like an in-universe Rod Sterling type Twilight Zone narrator who exists as a person that no one else can interact with, that walks around, looks exactly like the actual Jughead that lives in Riverdale, but is a separate character because he is the third person omniscient narrator. And so like that makes it in a weird meta way. Like this is just a different version of the show that is like actually making the narrator a separate character because it is a mirror of what we see in Riverdale as a TV show. But because Archie is aware of how the universe works, he is able to be aware of the narrator Jughead that exists, which means that he can then interact with him, kill him, which then destabilizes this universe and makes the Riverdale Jughead start to be aware of all the weird distortions.
I also think there's an interesting aspect here too, that like the character of Jughead in this show, in that he can both talk about the events of the show and then interact with people. He's also kind of the stage manager from our town.
Oh yeah. Which is a big influence on this show in a lot of ways. Which is
definitely a massive influence on the next season.
Yeah.
And I think at this point they knew that the seventh season was going to be their last. So I kind of see this whole bit as them looking ahead a little bit well.
Yeah, it's like weird how much our town makes an influence on certain aspects of the show and how it ends and everything actually. Yeah, but I don't know. I think that's such an interesting heady concept of like making your narrator a separate character and then having that character play a role in the resolution of this weird parallel universe reality warping.
It's very cool. Like I don't know that it works 100%.
It doesn't,
but it's very cool.
I think that they needed to work a little bit harder to explain it a little bit better because it isn't confusing. It took me a long time to untangle exactly what the fuck narrator Jughead is, especially given like stuff that happens after this episode and characters that show up and stuff. It was very confusing. And I think that how I explained it, I think is what their intention was with that character.
Yes. I think you're right.
It's shown a light for me. Much much like the next sequence, which was Betty showing up and popping Archie in the head.
Fuck yeah. So good.
Lily Reinhart in this dress was a vision. Just, I don't have a lot of feelings about Riverdale Betty, but I had feelings about this. I was like, I want to see this wedding. This woman is incredible.
What I loved about this, and I think I put this in my original review of the episode, was like, Archie is, to be very kind, throughout the season, kind of dumb.
Oh, yes.
And, you know, I know he understands the secrets and the way this universe works, but he still doesn't have enough basic understanding of the characters and the people he knows. And in this case, the woman he was going to marry, to know that, like, she would probably catch on to him at some point and have this happen. So I still like that as well. But also that Betty is just such a badass in this. And she gets to kill someone, which Betty loves killing people.
She loves killing people.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I love knowing that.
Yeah.
FBI Betty. Betty's in the FBI for a little bit, David.
Okay, this was a big part of question marks on my notes, Chris, because in the next sequence, Jughead and Betty try to recreate the circumstances of the bomb. So we get another pair-up kissing, which I assume was very important to some parts of the fandom. But they are interrupted by the other Jughead, who has a solution, and he says, Betty disarmed the bomb. She goes, I don't know how to do that. And the other Jughead goes, yes, you do. You were in the FBI. And we get this quick flashback to her, like, with somebody who has a bomb strapped to them. And again, I was like, did this happen? Or was this
that
a
was
cute
her
little thing?
sister. That was her sister Polly with a bomb strapped to her.
Oh,
that is,
of
course,
Polly
Cooper.
with a bomb.
Yes.
Polly Cooper, another character that they do some fascinating things with. Woof.
Ooh,
Woof.
Polly
Cannot wait.
is
Cannot
Polly
wait.
gets it worse than Kevin, I think.
Yes, Polly is put through the ringer, baby.
Poor Polly.
Yikes.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I think understated that just the narrator Jughead, who was a corpse earlier, just shows up and is like, okay, I'm back. I resurrected. Stop. Disarm that bomb. You're in the FBI. Now I'm going to explain things.
Hey, sorry. There may be a way to separate the two universes without erasing this one.
Okay.
Well, we should probably stop the bomb. Betty, could you please disarm it?
What? I don't know how to disarm a bomb.
Yes, you do. You went to the FBI Academy. You've actually done it before when Polly had a bomb strapped to her body. You came back from the dead, too?
Where were you after Archie strangled you?
The Great Pop's chocolate shop in the sky.
It's so dumb and audacious at the same time, and I adore it.
Yeah.
It's such a cheap resolution, but I still love it.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Like there's a famous line in the show that Veronica says once, and she's just like, "Forget it, Arch, it's Riverdale," and it just resonates. Like I know it's a reference, but to Chinatown, but like.
Yeah.
It also is so much with this show, you just have to be like, forget it, it's Riverdale, and accept it, and it works, and you'll find yourself doing that time and time again while watching this show.
I mean, I think one of the things that this show often does is deploy characters who can respond to things really confused and they just have to go with it. It's one of the things that Lily Reinhart has always been very good at. Like in this next scene, we'll talk about it, but like they have a whole bit of exposition of narrator Jughead figuring out how to save the universes or whatever. And like Lily Reinhart, they always are really good at positioning her with being like, what does that mean? What are you talking about? What? And then people just have to keep moving on. Like she's so good at those reactions in those scenes. One of my fucking favorite moments ever in the show is when she's talking to Polly, who's just given birth to twins, and Betty's like worried about how they are doing. And she's like, are they okay? Do they have names? And Polly says, Juniper and Dagwood. And Betty just looks at her and says like, okay. Anyway, like, it's so good.
You mean the cult that you joined?
It's not a cult. And at least on the farm, there's no stigma on my babies. You can tell Mom and Dad if you want.
Tell them what? I don't know anything. Are they healthy? Do they have names?
Juniper and Dagwood.
Oh my God. Polly, please, okay?
Lily Reinhart is like a master at just those like reacting to hearing the insane things that people in Riverdale say and then just moving on. It's so good.
Yep.
Oh, one thing I didn't mention when they're in the suite after with Pops and all the like Heaven with all the comics, they're playing like the Archie's Sugar Sugar song in it. I don't think we'd ever heard that in the show, had we? They
No,
maybe
we had the Josie and the Pussycats.
Okay.
They did a
performance.
cover of it, but you never
They
heard
did
the
a cover.
original.
No,
like,
we've
this
never
is the original
we've
version.
never
of
heard
it,
it.
though.
Yeah,
like I
yes.
think that's kind of a weirdly big.
I don't
deal.
think this is the original version of it.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
I think it's just because you also don't hear any of the actual singing. It's just an instrumental cover of it.
Sure.
But it is look, it's another cool homage to Archie Comics history.
Yeah.
Though, you know.
So ultimately what happens is the other Jughead, the narrator, explains to Rivervale Jughead that he can save both universes if he becomes a living battery and writes stories that sustain the universe after the separation.
Yeah, imagination is the battery to keep universes alive.
That's why I resurrected and I came right here. What is the other power source that's going to fuel Riverdale after it separates? Imagination. It's limitless and all-powerful. It's boundless and ever-replenishing. There's no fuel more potent, no generator more awesome.
I don't understand.
I think I do. The explosion is destruction, right? What's the opposite of destruction?
Creation?
Exactly. I mean, it's all in the comics. How Jughead here is going to save Riverdale by becoming a living battery, a story generator that powers Riverdale by writing the stories that fuel the universe, so it doesn't have to keep leeching off of Riverdale. It's an oversimplification, but yeah, you write and Riverdale lives. One thing though, once you start producing, you will have to be in complete isolation. I mean, think about if someone saw two Jugheads just walking and talking. It could actually break down reality, so.
Well, no. Then why can't you do it?
I'm the narrator. He's the writer.
What does that mean? This isn't fair.
No, it's how it has to be.
I like that. That's a very nice thesis point about art and creation. And I think the thing I know about Archie Comics is that there really can be any story told in this universe, especially with the four main characters, because of what they represent in narrative storytelling.
Yeah. I also really like that, like, when Betty's sort of like, well, okay, looks at the narrator Jughead, it's sort of like, why can't you be the one to like be the living battery and write it? And he's like, he looks at her like so dumbfounded, like, well, no, I'm the narrator. And then she's like, what does that mean? What?
Yeah. Like, move on. 2 minutes left on the episode. You can't do anything more.
Yeah. David, you like having to recap these episodes when so much happens in every scene. It was
Chris,
just like,
I can't imagine how you did this.
Such a Herculean task trying to condense everything that happens.
I could barely do it for this.
Yeah, it was rough.
So we end up getting then is Jughead is locked down in this bunker and he's writing the story of the impending explosion that's going to set the universes right, except it doesn't happen. He ends up creating a time loop for the Riverdale people. And when narrator Jughead and Betty go back downstairs, they're back in an earlier point of time and everything is closed. Riverdale is safe.
Yes. And I do think they've sort of justified it nicely that whenever they do later in the season want to revisit Riverdale, it's like they can kind of have it be whatever they want because it's sort of like Jughead has just rewritten reality for them. Yep. So like it could be whatever it is. So like it's just new rules, which is very smart. Yeah.
It's a great little safety net.
Yeah. But there is this is also what the coolest thing about it too is that like all this stuff you can be like, oh wow, that was a fun little diversion from the show that doesn't impact anything. But like no, somehow Jughead found a way to like reach out to the parallel universe. How he did that, who fucking knows? But he's writing reality now, so I guess he can do whatever he wants. He's basically a god. So like he's able to connect a phone call to the prime Riverdale universe to call Betty to warn her and Archie about the bomb, which then avoids them dying in the explosion, which is what was implied in the season 5 finale, which then gets us into the actual Riverdale story that the season will deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it does affect the main show ultimately, which means that you can't just write this off as being like, oh, that was a fun, weird story. It's like, no, this show is science fiction and fantasy now. That is real.
Yeah.
Season 6, episode 6 starts with Betty looking through a giant hole in this building from next door. It's a great opening. And then I was like, okay, stop, David. You don't need any more. Go back to the pilot.
Yep.
And then there were holes in buildings in the pilot.
Yep.
What a wild time. Just truly and honestly, hard for me to think about a better 100th episode. There are others out there in the world. I'm sure Gimmicks will end up covering another one of them. The Psych 100th, where they bring the actors back from Clue. It would just be fun to talk about some of these other ones. But I think for our 100th, this was the right
one
choice.
that I think represents and embraces what 100th episodes mean for a television show. I think this is the one to do it, because a lot of other ones are sort of like, oh, that was a momentous thing you did for your 100th episode. But this one is like looking at what television shows did in their 100th episode and finding the weirdest possible way to do all of them. That's what's fucking cool about this. And that's the thing I've always loved about Riverdale, is that it has such love for the medium of television and your ability to play when you are in the space of long-term, never-ending storytelling, just how much you can just try out and experiment with and do. That's what I love about this show so much.
Agreed.
Yeah, the storylines don't always stick the landing, but they are never ever dull. And that is what I will say for, and you know what, to me, the way Riverdale ended did stick the landing and did so in a very satisfying. Yeah, I just adore the way this show wrapped up, and I just think as an experience, Riverdale is just there's nothing like it in recent TV history. And it is, I know, Derek, you talked about this a little earlier. It's a show that is just going to continue to grow in reputation.
I think so.
As the years go on, because even now, hearing about it, hearing us talk about it, people listening to this episode are going to be like, excuse me, what?
Yeah, for sure.
I mentioned, the gangs and all these other things that happened throughout the course of this show that were such a blip on the radar, but so important at the time to Riverdale. And you're like, wow, this show accomplished a lot of different stories being told during its 7-season run. And it's amazing.
I love it. I love this episode. I love this show so much. I don't love it ironically. I think it's just genuinely a great piece of television history.
It rules. It's a phenomenal show. You should watch it from beginning to end. And by you, I mean everyone hearing my voice.
Yeah, it's a very satisfying journey to be on, and a very fun journey to be on.
Well, Chris, thank you for closing the loop with us and being here for not only one of the first episodes to drop on the podcast, but our 100th episode to talk about this one. Where can folks find more of you and the great stuff you do out in the world?
You can find everything I do in one handy-dandy new website, which was created for me by the great Derek Gale, who's someone we're all a friend of. And that's www.sci-fiexplosion.com. It will have, everything Chris Cummins Sci-Fi Explosion at. Every week, you can find me at twitch.tv/Sci-Fi Explosion. I do a Saturday morning cartoon show, 10 a.m. Eastern every week, and also pop up there from time to time. This August, I will be in Atlanta at the Monsterama convention the first weekend of August. And then the first week of September, I will be back in Atlanta for Dragon Con. And I'll be doing things like Sci-Fi Explosion, my music video book club show, be on a bunch of panels. Not sure my full schedule yet, but there's going to be a lot of fun nerdiness there happening. Yeah. And it's a great time. Come on out and see me and say hello, and we'll talk about all things cool and nerdy.
Derek, what about you? Where can folks find you and the great stuff you're up to online?
Sure, you can find me most places at Derek B. Gale. You can find some of my writing at Kaiju United and Pop Heist, and my other podcasts include Walloping Web Snappers, where we do deep dives into every Spider-Man cartoon ever made, Screonk, where we look at Godzilla films, Falling with Style, where we look at Pixar films, and Lee Carvalho's Potting Challenge, where we look at the Simpsons tie-in video games. What about you, David?
Yeah, you can find me online almost anywhere as Dmuma. That's D-M-U-M-A. And then I'm on a couple other podcasts here. I'm on Are You My Mother? I'm on Fear Coded with Marilee and Tyler, where we talk about horror media. And then I am on Super Mario Moment with Hamish, talking about Mario across the universe.
Gimmicks is a proud part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. If you're looking for other queer media podcasts, including the ones we just mentioned, check out the full roster of Glitterjaw shows at glitterjaw.com.
And if you want to support this show by giving us a little tip, buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/gimmickspod. You can also follow the podcast at gimmickspod on Blue Sky and Instagram, and email us your questions, feedback, and corrections to gimmicspodcast@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe on all podcast platforms. And until next time, friends,
I'm weird. I'm a weirdo.
Keep being weird.
I refuse to keep being weird.
I just turned 17. I'm master of my scene. Still something sorta not completely cool. Yes, I'm talking about the problem that I got. When things get chilly, that is when I want them hot. Might sound silly, but it bothers me a lot. Archie going left, Archie going right. Archie running any road that he can find. Archie never making up his all-American mind. Making up his all-American mind. Making up his all-American mind.
That would be the secret ingredient I added.
What secret ingredient?
Tears that the Virgin Mary shed at the crucifixion.